Mm. Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered Call-In Show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Hey. How y'all doing? Look like my levels are just fine. Look like everything's working out as expected. Man, it's been a few weeks, y'all. Wait, just 2 weeks, right? I skipped last week, so it's actually been 2 weeks. So, how you been? We got another one of those shows today. Today, we're going to talk about this concept called fusion teams. If you don't know what a fusion team is, you've come to the right spot because we're going to talk about that today. But here's the deal. If you don't know me, my name is Devon Morris. I'm kind of your guide on this journey. I help people transform the way that they do things in businesses and in life is what I do. Certified Scrum Trainer, PMP, working toward becoming, I'm kind of like working toward becoming a PhD candidate. I'm not finished with all my classes yet, but I'm working toward it, right? Other than that, man, I'm kind of good. So hopefully you all are good. Do me a favor as you come in to join us, whether you're on LinkedIn or you're right here on YouTube. Say hi, man. Just say hi. Just go ahead and give a shout out, and I'll shout you all out a little bit later. If you don't know, if you haven't been around the show before, what we do here is we talk about agile, scrum, entrepreneurship, those kind of things, or anything in general that you like to talk about. We have a nice little community here, and we answer questions as well, just along the way, right? So we'll talk about a topic, maybe for about 20 minutes. Normally we're done by, half an hour past. So like 8:30 Central, we're normally done by that time. And then we open the floor for any questions that you have, and I stay on as long as you got questions, right? That's what I do, right? And so, in general, any question you got, just get it prepared, get it ready for us to kind of jump into it. Um, in terms of what's going on, man, I'm telling you, man, I just got on vacation, man. You know, um, I went on an all black cruise. Never been on an all black cruise before. It's amazing. It was amazing. That's the best thing I could say. It was amazing. Um, yeah, man, it was amazing. Other than that, just working with clients, doing the things that need to be done. Um, Mondays, I can't really get much done on school because I got to catch up with everything else. So I'll be diving back deeper into school tomorrow, just getting logistics together. Usually Mondays and Fridays are days that I'm kind of organizing and getting things together, working on things for the show, and all those wonderful things. Just kind of making it all work the way it's supposed to work. So, like I said, just make sure you all say hi, regardless of what platform you're on, and then we'll go from there. What else is going on with me? Ah, man, nothing else really. 3 weeks before I'm done with this particular quarter. Yeah. Really four, four because we begin in week 8. So yeah, about 4 weeks before I'm done. Looking forward to getting done with this quarter, smoothing this out, taking a couple week break, and then getting back at another quarter. Probably got about after this, I got about 3 more classes to go before I can start really working toward dissertation. So that is a positive thing, right? I put a lot of work in. Nice long journey, but I see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's the key. I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm walking toward it. I really am walking toward it. Um, Other than that, man, yeah, I did a human-centered design class. That was interesting. Um, if I went on that vacay, that was a beautiful thing. And then did some work with a client as well that week. So it's just been really, really amazing for me. But it's usually I do what I like to do, and most of you all here, hopefully, you're doing what you love to do and what you care about doing. If that's the case, then it's just a good thing. It's a blessing for you. It's a blessing for everybody, right? So now I want to go ahead and start moving us toward the topic. I'm gonna keep this thing simple. Some of you all may have been in. Is there anybody here that's been involved with a fusion team? If you have, then just kind of let us know, right? If you haven't, then that's a different thing. I'm going to let you know what a fusion team is today. But if you have, I'd love to get some of your thoughts in terms of fusion teams, and then we can go from there. But let's just kind of move in a direction here, okay? If you know, I'm in a studio, so I got different levels of controls while I'm in a studio. So hopefully things look a little bit more appropriate for you. But let's talk here. Um, a fusion team. It's an interesting concept. Kind of concept that was really more publicized by Gardner in a paper that they wrote. There have been several organizations that have been gravitating toward this, and it's something that I want to make sure that you all know about because recently I worked with a client that working with fusion teams, right? So the question becomes, what is a fusion team? And I think there's a beauty to fusion teams that I want to let you know about. And that's the reason I want to bring it up to you to make sure you're educated about it. And if we need to talk about it deeper one day, we certainly can. But by definition, if you think about what is a fusion team, the best way I can sum a fusion team up for you is really simple. It's a cross functional blend of diverse skills across disciplines. Now, the thing that I really want to point out to you, and I'm kind of circling this right here, diverse skills across discipline. That makes sense? Some of you all, may think just a regular agile team, but when I say across disciplines, I'm not talking about across skill set within IT, for example. Um, I'm not talking about, different skill sets of what it takes to build something. I'm talking about distinctively different disciplines, like the people who do contracts versus the people who actually install servers versus the people who actually do software versus the people who have to do all that communication stuff, right? I'm really talking about creating a blend that's cross functional across all those disciplines, right? Um, and that makes this a tad bit different, theoretically the same, um, but it makes it a tad bit different. And I want to point those things out to you. So when I say realistically, a cross functional blend of diverse skills across disciplines, I don't want you to think fundamentally just across software development. Okay. So be really careful about that. Now, let's take it a little bit deeper than that so that I can make sure you understand. I find that there are some similarities between um, fusion teams and agile teams, right? The first one is really lean principles, right? Now, if you've been around Scrum or Agile in general, you know that there's a marriage kind of between lean and Scrum, and they share a lot of principles. They have a lot of things in common, and this is not to say that one birthed the other. Obviously, lean has been around much longer than Agile in name. Okay, so we can agree on that, no question. And Agile's been around much longer than lean than fusion teams. But they both borrow from these concepts. They both do. They really both borrow from the concepts, and they borrow really heavily from those concepts. One of the biggest things that I can think about just off the top of my head is value stream. Value stream versus non-value add that's necessary, and then waste, right? You know, those are definitely lean concepts, but the idea is that both fusion teams and agile teams, scrum teams, they pull from those concepts. and they pull from many, 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 many lean principles. And I want to point that out to you as one of the biggest similarities that I see between the two. And in seeing that, it gives it some breadth and depth. Also, they both focus on agility, being able to change and adapt to the changes that are happening, and having some level of flexibility. Um, and both of them are there to really encourage and empower collaboration on whole new levels. Collaboration on levels that are just huge in general, just are huge. And so when I think about the essence of these things, to me, you know, a fusion team and an agile team, when I look at them for the most basics of what they are, these are the things that I would see. And if it was only these things, I would say they are the exact same concept. Um, I would not make any difference between the concepts whatsoever. Okay, so but that doesn't stop us there because there's more to this than just that, right? Because there are differences between the two. Um, if I was to look at these differences, the first one that I would really kind of point out to you, and again, I'm speaking generally. I'm not speaking in terms of this is what happens all the time because there is no one way of doing this, is the point I'm making. Usually, the catalyst for a fusion team is to really get at a business problem more than anything else. So you'll find that the business is a driver here. While agile teams, usually the catalyst is people within IT. So the birth of the need is a little bit different, even though the problem could be the same. The birth of the need is normally a little bit different, which usually takes means they may take a different approach to each one of them. And then the other thing is the scope of the expertise. The scope of a fusion team goes beyond what it takes to deliver. Um, and that's really key. There's a difference between the two when an agile team might be more focused on delivery. Then you got project versus product. I don't think this is a huge difference. I'm going to always see a fusion team is more focused on product. Even though I can see where it can be about projects, and a lot of the agile teams that I have dealt with over the many years have been focused on projects, not necessarily products. And so I definitely see a difference between these two. But I can also see that fusion teams can easily gravitate toward projects, and that agile teams can gravitate toward products as well. So I think that this is also one of those big key things that has, kind of what I would say blurred lines. But what I generally see stands true. A lot of times within IT, it's about projects, and when the business is focused on, it's about the product itself. So these are the differences, but let's talk a little bit more. Okay. What are some of the key characteristics of a fusion team that makes it interesting? If I was to bring up the first one, it's really about cross-functional expertise. And this is probably the most salient thing about it because what you'll find is that fusion teams consist of people from different areas, and this may include IT professionals, it may include project managers, it may include people who work on procurement, right? It really depends on what the need is or the problem that you're trying to solve. So classically, if you're only dealing with IT related stuff and you're dealing with software stuff, I get it. They would look exactly the same. But I think here's where one of the differences that I find with a fusion team is. A fusion team is goal focused, right? Now, in recent years, Scrum has added the concept of goals um, and made them more salient, right? So you'll find goals throughout Scrum, a product goal, a sprint goal. You'll find those things that exist. But here's the deal: a goal gives us an objective to meet, a shared objective, right? And you're going to find that fusion teams are really heavily goal oriented, right? And doing whatever it takes to meet that goal. And I notice Scrum in many cases, Agile in general, you can't say as Agile is goal oriented. I can say Scrum is goal oriented today. Um, Another thing that I would say about fusion teams is that there's a huge collaborative culture, but that collaborative culture, like Scrum and Agile, at least the hope of Scrum and Agile, would be across discipline. Would be across discipline, and so take it across every discipline that it takes to share. You'll find that fusion teams go across discipline a lot more. The reason why I say that to you, because in my experience with a fusion team, especially thinking about this cross cultural thing, right? Because the cross cultural thing is key here. I've worked with teams that have had attorneys on a team in terms of procurement. And he had to install servers in different locations, which means you got the people who do the servers, the administration of the software, pulling the software in, those kind of things, in order to build out different environments for different things that the organization was trying to do. And instead of everybody working in their silos, one of the biggest things that I loved about seeing a fusion team work is that we were breaking down the silos between these different disciplines. So we made sure that knowledge from each of those disciplines was right there on that team, which to me, um, like it leaned heavily into the elimination of waste, right? The biggest being waiting, just things sitting there waiting for somebody to touch it. And that collaboration alone helped to have a huge impact on timelines, tag time versus wait time, just those kind of things. And again, going right back to lean concepts. So it's just that cross discipline thing that you really get with a fusion team that I like a whole lot. Now, that doesn't stop there because the next thing on the list is going to be there's an innovation focus. Um, you know, I don't always run into organizations that want to be innovative, but if we're tackling complex problems, different insights or in disciplines across insight across disciplines will help you. Because what's going to happen is if you have insight across disciplines, they now get to hear each other's challenges, hear each other's problems, and try to find ways to solve those problems collectively. Sometimes I don't understand what this person over there does, and if I understand that, maybe I can tweak this over here to make their job just a tad bit easier. So for me, when I go and think about having that opportunity to get those minds in a room to come up with new ideas to deal with this complex environment that we're in. For me, that is the true beauty of an actual fusion team is that focus on innovation, that focus on doing something different. And doing something different actually helps us because we figure out much faster where the problems are and how we go about solving the problems. So nothing really complicated about that. Many of you all would say, well, that's what an agile team does as well. I can't say that that's not the truth, right? Um, but this fifth one will align with agile teams really simply. These teams are dynamic, right? They adapt as they need to. That's going to be way different than traditional teams. It's going to be very simple to agile teams. The ability to pivot, adjust to market conditions. The good thing about fusion teams is that you have the knowledge there to adapt accordingly much faster because you are across discipline, which means that you get the knowledge from the discipline faster than a normal agile team would. So to me, that is extremely helpful and it's just nothing but pluses. And then the last one on my list is really simple. It is, well, not showcase your success. It is actually customer centric approach, right? So I'm going to take this and I'm going to mark this out and I'm going to say, with my bad handwriting, a customer centric approach. For some strange reason, I didn't change that. Okay. A customer centric approach is what we're talking about here, right? The customer centric approach is obviously, just like it says, the focus on the actual customer themselves, right? And in focusing on the customer, it allows you to be able to find out what the customer needs sooner as long as you are also establishing a feedback loop, right? Because when it's customer centric, along with that, you have to establish a feedback loop so you can loop through and let the customer see what you got so they can give you feedback and then keep looping through. So the idea remains clear and it's all about the customer, which you will also say to me, that's an agile team. So realistically, when I think about these six things that I really gave you, that really is about a fusion team, it makes me think about an agile team under the new name. So to me, just in terms of thinking as an agilist, I'll just go, they're the same thing. But then if I take a step back, I've seen fusion teams that's been 90% business, 10% IT, or 100% business, 0% IT. And those things are very, very different. And so a fusion team doesn't tell you a particular process to follow. It doesn't say go around and do 2 week sprints. It doesn't say jump and do Kanban. It doesn't jump around and do any of that stuff. It really says, really, the statement clearly is get all the right people in the room, figure out whatever it needs you need to do, and decide how to approach that problem. So that's very different than saying let's follow Scrum, let's follow Kanban, let's follow these different things, and we set up those rules as we move forward. Now, there are things that I believe are really amazing in helping to make sure fusion teams work well, work really well. And I have some tips that I'm making available to you, right? Because I know some of you all will be here for this video live, and then there'll be many of you that will see this later. So realistically, my statement to you, if you need more information, then the place you need to go to is this link right here. This link right here is the thing that I wrote about Fusion Teams, so you can have a good idea what they are. I will drop them in LinkedIn, and I will go ahead and drop that link in actual YouTube, so you actually have it. I'm doing that as we speak right now, so everybody has a copy of these things, right? Now, you know, just so you know, you got that link to the Fusion Teams. You will notice that when you go to that link, you can sign up and get a download of the top Fusion Team tips. And that kind of looks like this, gives you the actual tips. And so I'm giving you a preview of that. But if you go there, you can download this and get your own copy of it, okay? Now, that being said, that's it for that. That gives you all the information I wanted to give you about Fusion Teams. And here's the deal. Next week, what we're going to talk about on this channel, we're going to talk about, hey, you had a job setback. How do you rebuild your confidence after a job setback? That's what we will talk about next Monday. So make sure you're here next Monday for that. We're going to start off just like we did, talk the first 15 to 25 minutes about the topic, and then we will jump into questions. So, that being said, that's what Fusion Teams are all about. Here's what I need you all to do. If you haven't said hi in the chat, that's okay. You're welcome to say hi now. Do you have any questions about Agile, Scrum, entrepreneurship, anything you want to talk about? Now, the way we work this show is you can drop your question in the comments. I'm going to look through the comments. I'll double check on LinkedIn. I'll double check on actual YouTube, see what those comments are. And then I'll answer them. But if you really want to have a real conversation with me, you are welcome to join me live on the channel as well. If anybody wants to join me live on the channel, let me know in the comments and I will provide a link for you to actually join me live and you can ask your question and that way we can have a conversation on. Sometimes the questions that you ask, it's easy for me to just kind of answer them, but I may not have all the information down. It makes it much better for me to be able to ask you a question or two so then I can make sure that I'm getting it right, right? So, anybody interested in that, you're welcome to let me know in the comments, and I will go ahead and take that and drop you a link. Other than that, um, drop any comments that you have, questions in the chat, in the comments, and I can deal with them accordingly. Okay, so I'll say hi to a couple people here. I see Rajiv as usual. Thank you, Rajiv. Welcome. I see D. How you doing, D? How's life treating you? And I see Najma. So I'm assuming your name is Najma Small, right? So welcome, welcome, welcome. I haven't seen you before on the show, so welcome if this is your first time. Let's see. In terms of LinkedIn, I don't see too many people. Well, I can't see you anyway, unless you drop a comment. So if you haven't dropped a comment, then I can't see you. So that being said, let me go ahead and open up the floor. Any questions that you have, please drop them in the comments, right? Hey, Hernando, how you doing? Hopefully everything's going all right with you. Welcome, 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 welcome to the show. I think I've seen you on the show before, so welcome back. If it's your first time, let me know. Your name seems very familiar to me. So, what questions do you all have? Or y'all trying to make this an early night for me? Questions, comments, anything going on in your life that's important for us to talk about here? I'm curious. Yeah, I'm in the studio. I haven't been in the studio in a bit of time, actually. So I'm like, I'm a little bit excited about being in the shoot studio. You get to see my comic books that's up there. I always throw one or two of them up there for everybody to see. Because I'm a comic book collector. If you didn't know that, I definitely do a tad bit of that. Just so if you didn't know, now you know. You know. But other than that, everything else is really, really amazing, really, really good. So I'm feeling good about it all. You all are quiet tonight. I ain't got no comments here. You all don't have no questions. That means everything in terms of your agile scrum world is going perfectly. I love it. I like that kind of thing. I like that kind of stuff, right? So you all know, I don't know if you're not a part of my email list, then you're missing out on a newsletter. Every Monday I send out a newsletter, and that newsletter um, has some good information in it. I think this past week we talked about. I got to go see what the newsletter is because I'll be putting them out. Um, but we had some good things happening with the past newsletters. Today definitely talked about fusion teams, but one of the articles was about mentorship. Another one was about what do you do after you submit an online job application? Just what are your next steps at that point? And then about Fusion Team. So there's three different articles that are available there that you may have missed out on. Next week, we'll put another three articles together somehow and give you some more information about some topics. Pro- Probably you'll get the article about rebuilding your confidence after a job setback. I'll try to make sure that one of the articles pairs up with what we're talking about in the evening. Sometimes I can do that, other times I can't. So definitely next week I'll be doing that. Other questions? Any questions? Any thoughts? Am I sounding crazy here? What do you think about those fusion teams? Is my question, right? What do you think about those fusion teams? I know it sounds just like an agile team, but I think there are slight differences. And you know what? Probably one of the biggest differences is, I'll tell you, is just thought, right? I mean, some organizations call it agile team squads, right? It's still an agile team, but they call them a squad because that's what they grew them into being, and that's their preference, and that's okay. It's perfectly fine. No issue with that. Okay, no issues with that whatsoever. Just gotta love it. So yeah, so I'm just like nothing but goodness. I had some good tacos this evening, so that was another plus in my life today. Um, but yeah. When are they used for what types of projects? So D asked, um, when were they used and what type of projects? Okay, I think they can be used on almost any kind of project, um, or projects and products. Okay, so I'll give you examples of what I've experienced so you understand. I've seen it used for pure software development, where it's 100% software development, and a team is basically a fusion team, but they look just like a scrum team, exactly like a scrum team. Where you got the product owner, you have a scrum master, you have a group of developers, and they're just working things. They're just working things, right? They're doing everything related to Scrum. That was a fusion team, right? They did get more access to the business, to business knowledge. That was way more helpful for them. But then also a team that was installing infrastructure in various locations or offices that they had. And that's not going to be a Scrum team. I could say that's more of a Kanban team, but not necessarily, right? Because we're not measuring cycle time, because we're not producing the same exact thing every time for a location. Every location is unique. Every location is taking different time. So we couldn't use metrics like your classic Kanban stuff because it's not repeatable in any kind of way. So it wasn't necessarily a Kanban team because it didn't have any sprints, iterations, anything like that. But it took expertise that ranged from hardware installation to software installation to you know physically changing things in the building, to procurement, legal people, um, to HR because there's some issues tied to HR with this. And you're thinking about all those different skills being on a particular team, and that team had to move forward with whatever it is that we were working toward. So that's what I've seen, right? And so those are really big extremes in terms of fusion teams. One of them looks just like a classic Scrum team. The other one looks definitely different than a classic Scrum or Agile team, but you'll find a lot of overlap between them. So for me, it didn't matter what type of project because you can apply whatever processes you need in order for the actual fusion team to be successful. So for me, I don't think there's one type of project that a fusion team can work on. And that's been my experience. I know that sounds like an odd answer, but it really is the truth, right? Because nothing a fusion team says is follow this exact process. No, it really is make the determination for what do you think will be the best way to solve the problem. And if that's agile, great. But if it's not agile, then great too, right? Um, so me, you see a lot more overlap with the agile teams because they are expressively using agile, right? So you won't see that same thing with other types of teams. They'll be quite different. And again, that's okay to be different. Nobody wants, I don't want everybody to be the same. And nobody wants that in particular. So hopefully that answers your question, D. You might run into a situation where you run into fusion teams, right? I mean, you really, really may run into fusion teams, right? Um, if I was to, I'm just doing a blind thing right here. If I was to go to monster.com and look up Fusion Team, I don't know what's going to kind of net out, right? Um, but I know some organizations are ramping up toward it, right? And when I look at, let's see, yeah, I see a few things out there that's for a Fusion Team. Not a ton of things, right? But I see some things out there. Yeah, just facts. Yeah, so just looking to see what they got to say here. Do I think that fusion teams is a concept that is going to get more popular or not? I'm not sure. But my key is to let you know about it, so then you can make your plans accordingly, right? As long as you can make your plans, then we're good to go, right? So hopefully that answers your question, D. So then you can be good to go. If so, just let me know. If not, ask it a different way, or let me know what I didn't answer for you. Okay. Other questions in terms of agile, scrum, all those kind of good things. Look at that. You all are amazing because basically you telling me you all doing so well, you don't have any questions. I like it. I love when you ain't got no questions, right? Um, I'm looking forward to next week. So rebuilding your confidence after the job setback is going to be a big one because we all go through that at some point, right? So I'll ask again any other questions because if not, then we are probably going to have an early night. I'm still trying to recover from trip. So might be an early night for us. So any questions? Any questions other than that? Let me check on LinkedIn just to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Okay. All right, well, seeing no further questions, I'm going to go ahead and call it done for tonight. Next week we'll come together again, talk about rebuilding your career after after a setback. Back this particular topic right here we'll cover next week. So come prepared for that with questions. I think it's going to be a big one. But I wanted to make sure we cover fusion teams. Once again, I did give you the link to the actual fusion team document. If you want that, go there, put your name in and email address, and it'll get email to you if you want that document. Okay. Other than that, I'm going to say to you all, this has been a pleasure. I'm going to shut it down for the evening and say, have a wonderful week. And if you need anything, just be sure to reach out. Other than that, you all have a good one. I'm going to say peace. Bye bye, everybody.